the Soviets did their 23-day flight, and they landed, and they were all dead. They had expired during the reentry. And so the question then was, did they expire due to some space anomaly or malady of which there was no explanation, or was it a spacecraft accident? That would determine what we did in the future. And so we didn't have all those good relations with the Soviets in those days, but I guess there was a fair amount of disinformation going back and forth in both directions. But we did ask them what happened. And they came back fairly quickly and said, well, it was a spacecraft accident. That after they had departed or separated their modules to do the descent module to come home in, there was a failure of one of the valves that let all the air out of the spacecraft, so they all died of not being able to live in the vacuum. So we continued then with our zero gravity type of approach. We didn't know at the time whether or not we had to have a rotating space station for artificial gravity, which would be more complex and more expensive, or if we could get by with just a zero gravity operation, which is what we were doing. So we continued our training. Alan was our commander, and Owen Garrett was then our science pilot. And these military guys, these are military guys who were in the Air Force, or they were in the Navy. The Commandant of the Marine Corps said the other day that all Marines are Marines. There's no former Marines. And so Jerry and I are the non-former kind of people. And we're one on each flight to keep the other guys in line. In any case, our main objective for Skylab were to study the sun in ways that we could not do from the Earth. I will let our solar physicists over here can talk about that. We're also going to study Earth and its resources, how to find new ones and use the ones we have more efficiently and more effectively. And we're studying the medical aspects, of course, of being in space and how you are able to live there for long periods of time. And we were able to demonstrate that you could live in zero gravity for a long period of time. We're now having longer flights because of our flights of the International Space Station astronauts who are spending 4, 5, 6 months. And I believe it's next year they're going to start a flight of 1 year in duration for an astronaut and a cosmonaut. So if we're going to go to Mars, we have to figure out what happens to it medically, and so we were part of that build-up of long duration. One of the most remarkable parts that we did on all of our flights was to do spacewalks, or EVAs. People ask, well, what was the most remarkable part of being in a mission? I say, well, you never forget the launch, you never forget the reentry. But being in space, running a laboratory, every day looks the same except for the days that you do spacewalks. And so we had 3 spacewalks on our mission to do repairs, as well as to do routine maintenance on the space station. And those are the kinds of things that set apart all the other missions in orbit. The most memorable parts of being in orbit are the spacewalks. And when you're inside, of course, you just look out and see part of the world. But when you go outside, you can see the whole world all the way from all the whole circumference. You can't see it like you can from the moon as just a ball, but you see a part of it, like 1,200 miles in every direction. And with the naked eye, you can see freeways and cities and airports, and you can see the blues of the ocean and the white of the clouds and snow on the mountains, the beautifully painted deserts, painted just the way the master painter painted them so many years ago, and all their living hues, which are so much more vivid now because we have this great contrast of colors. And it's just a remarkable experience. And one of the things that we did when we did our spacewalks was to make it possible for the International Space Station astronauts to actually build a space station, because up until that time we had not been very good at doing zero gravity spacewalking through Germany. We had not done very well. We had a couple on Apollo, but they were very short, quick. So we developed and implemented all of the zero gravity spacewalking procedures on Skylab that were then used to build the International Space Station. Most people forget that as one of the major roles that we had to go along with the other objectives that we wanted to do. So that being said, I think I better be quiet because Jerry wants to speak. He's a senior brain for me.
Yeah, I can see this handover.
Yeah,
I'm not supposed to actually something.
You are also junior to,
All right, you guys, quiet down.
Skylab 3, the last of the American Skylab program. Jerry Corr, commander, Bill Pogue, the pilot, and Ed Gibson, the science officer.
Well, I think you probably got the picture now that Skylab is a classic example of the NASA way of doing business, and that is you do things with small steps and building blocks. And you saw it done all the way through Mercury, Gemini, and the Apollo lunar landings. And Skylab was done the same way. We took small steps and we added to them with every mission, and we learned more every mission, and then everything that we learned was passed on to be used for the International Space Station and to some degree on the shuttle. If you're interested in the kind of booster we were on, the Saturn V booster, which you'll see in the Saturn V exhibit, is the booster that put our workshop into orbit. Our workshop was made out of the third stage of that Saturn V system. The vehicle that was used to put us into space is lying out and on its side out there in the rocket garden. So if you get a chance, you can go out and take a look at that big thing that we rode into space. In fact, I'm told that it was a smoother ride on that than it was on the shuttle. And the shuttle guys may want to argue about that, I don't know. Anyway, Skylab was a real pathfinder. There were a lot of things that we were very, very worried about. And the most important thing was the fact that they weren't sure how long, as you've been told, people could stay in a weightless environment without beginning to suffer some physiological damage. And the things we learned were that the human body adapts to whatever environment you put it in. You put it in a weightless environment, it begins acting. And after about something like 18 to 20 days, your body comes into sort of an equilibrium with the environment that you're in, and you begin to feel comfortable. You can get around real well, and your body is at rest. All your baseline data is leveled out. Interestingly enough, when you come back down to Earth again after a long period of time, after about 15 or 20 days, your body readapts back to 1G again. A classic example down here on the Earth is go to Denver from here, and the first day you're in Denver, you're not going to go running up and down any steps because you're going to get winded very, very quickly. But after you've been there a week or so, it's a lot easier to do it. And that's a classic example of how your body adapts to the environment that you're in. And so we learned how the body adapts, and what we learned was that in order to take care of the body and make sure it's in good shape when you get back down here on the Earth again, was to exercise. And on the 28-day mission, the Skylab guys exercised for, I think it was 30 minutes a day. They came back and they weren't in very good shape. They were a little bit woozy, and it took them longer to readapt. The second crew for 59 days exercised for an hour every day, and they came back and the doctors weren't too terribly pleased with their condition when they came back as well. So the Skylab 4 mission, our mission, exercised for an hour and a half every day, and we came back and went through the medical exams, and the doctors opined that maybe we might be in better shape when we got back than when we left. Now, that's a good lesson, because on the International Space Station that's flying right now, people are exercising for anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours every single day. And they're coming back after as long as a 1-year duration in reasonably good shape. So as it was mentioned earlier, in looking ahead toward Mars, we're going to have people staying up there regularly now for a year. And we're depending on exercise to be the thing to keep you in good enough shape so that you can come back down in good shape. That's about it for me.